Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, a safe place to get real about sex. Whether you're a man, woman, single, or couple, this is the show for you.
We are your hosts, Kevin Anthony and Céline Remy, and we are here to guide you to go from good to amazing in the bedroom and beyond.
All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast. This is episode 184, and it's titled How to Make Date Night Sexy and Fun. So this is actually going to be a fun show because we're going to talk a lot about what we do for date nights, and we always have great date nights. I mean, you know, we're 6 years in now of weekly date nights, and we never not have fun.
That's so true.
Or sexy time in a date night. So, you know, it's something that comes up fairly often. You know, when we coach clients, especially couples that have been together for a long time, this is a question they have. Well, it's like, how do we make it fun? We do the same thing. Or, you know, the other big question we get all the time is, really, like, we have to schedule a date night? You know, so one of the things that I always say is, well, what outcome do you want? Right? Because the whole thing is you have an outcome that you want. You want to connect, you want to have fun, you want to have sex. Are you doing the things that it takes for that to happen? And, you know, I would say 9 times out of 10, when we're working with people, the answer to that is no. Like, they're literally not doing the things that would equal the outcome that they want. And then they don't understand why they don't get the outcome that they want. So because this is so common, we decided we would do a whole show on it today. We're going to cover, you know, what some of the research says about date nights, you know, because we tell people all the time, you got to have a date night. And half the time they roll their eyes at us, right? Well, we're going to give you the research as to why that's important. We're going to give you our 8 keys to a date night. And that should really be 8 keys to a successful date night. And then we're going to give you a list of like sexy ideas and fun ideas that you can mix and match and put together to create amazing date nights.
The bottom line is, if you hate doing date night, then you're doing it wrong. And we hope that by the end of today's show episodes, you will feel inspired and have a renewed enthusiasm for the wonders of date nights. But before we get started, let's give a big shout out to our sponsors, Power and Mastery. If you want to join the secret club of men who are great in bed, then check out Power and Mastery at powerandmastery.com. It is the most complete sexual mastery training for men. Whether you want to have harder erections, last longer, or increase your sexual skills, there is something for you at powerandmastery.com. So go check it out at the end of this episode. The link will be in the description below, or simply type powerandmastery.com. So let's start with the beginning of things, why we have a date night and how we do it right. And if you are a regular listeners of the Love Lab podcast, you probably have heard us talk about some of our rules, air quotes, or guidelines for our date nights. And this is something that we are very big on. The first date night we ever had was because it was our first date.
That is correct.
And that first date has remained as our date night since its conception.
Yep, it absolutely has.
And when it is on a Tuesday night, if something comes up, we reschedule date nights. If one of us travels, if there's a particular, I don't know, event or something we want to go to.
Somebody doesn't feel well.
Yes.
Family's in town, whatever it is. Because stuff happens in life, right? And there's always things, because that's another thing that people say is, well, but if we schedule date night, what happens if, you know, one of the kids is sick, or we can't find a babysitter, or, you know, make your list of 1,000 things that could possibly happen and get in the way.
You also want to make sure that you're not just always coming up with excuses to get out of the date night. And this is why it's important that if the date night needs to be moved, it has to be rescheduled. You don't just let it fly and be like, oh, we'll just do it next week. Like, it has to be rescheduled that within a few days of when the date night was supposed to be.
Yeah. Now, it's possible that maybe every night that week happens to be busy, because some people really are that busy, and that's okay. The point is, you made an effort, because what happens is, oh, it's not going to work tomorrow. Oh, well, you know, we'll figure something else out later. And then the next day goes by and the next day goes by and the next day goes by and it never happens.
Well, you can be creative because your date night usually could be a 2 or 3 hours window. What if you were like, hey, why don't we do 2 short nights or afternoon this week because we're busy during the nights,
or a weekend.
Exactly. And that's part of the fun of also how we do it right is we are creative and we are somewhat flexible. We have the guidelines that for date night, it has just a couple things. Number one, we have to be doing something together. So it's not the time to watch a movie or cruise social media or any of those things. And number two, there has to be naked time. Naked time does not equal penetration. It most often ends in penetration, but it has no expectation that it has to be penetration. Naked time is simply about honoring the fact that we are more than just business partners, parents, whatever titles that we have, that we are husband and wife or a committed couple, and that we are sexual beings, and that we are going to honor that part of ourselves. And through the nakedness, we call in that sensuality, the eros part, and that's one of the keys we'll talk more about later. So these are our really short guidelines to make it successful and to make it right.
Okay, so we've given you sort of our spiel on why we think date night is important and why we've always made it a priority to do date night. But what does the science say? Because nobody believes anything these days unless the science has said it. So,
hey, it's been fact checked. So we found a few different studies. They are a few years old, but they still are pretty relevant. So Harry Benson from the Marriage Foundation and Steve McKay from the University of London studied a group of almost 10,000 couples with a young child to find out what date night habits the most successful couples had in common. So see, they've selected a high number of people. So we're not just looking at a small little number of like 100 people.
10,000 is a good sample size.
It is. And they also chose the hardest because they had a young child, which, as we all know, bringing in somebody else and having a kid really makes things harder.
Oh, yeah. It will significantly reduce your chances for being able to even have a date night.
But here's what's fascinating. So the frequency of date nights broke down in this fashion. There was 11% of the people had a once a week or more date night. 30% had a once a month. 23% had less often than once a month. And 36% had hardly ever, which is a lot of people, hardly ever. Like
more than a third.
Yes.
More than a third of the sample size didn't do any date night at all.
And here's what they monitored these people for over 10 years. And it turns out that the couples who had date nights once a month had the highest odds of staying together compared with the other groups. But that was only true for married couples, not couples who simply lived together, cohabiting couples. I don't really know why, but that was the data, and we just copied it the way it was to give it to you straight. So if you are thinking, yes, I want to do date night, but it's too much, once a month was the sweet spot for people. We don't have kids. We can commit to once a week. But we get it that if you have children, if you have different things, once a month or maybe twice a month, these are kind of your sweet spots.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that the once a week or more didn't fare better in this study. But we also don't know a whole lot of the details of
the quality of the date night.
Yeah, we don't know any of that stuff. So, but I would say, I mean, once a month would be your bare minimum.
Yes.
Like bare minimum. Think about it, like once a month. To me, that sounds like a long time in between. Think about it this way. If you were single and dating, right, especially in today's modern world where we have all these dating sites and all these apps and stuff like that. If you're single and dating and you only go on one date a month, how do you feel about that? I can remember when I was single, I would be thinking, wow, that's a long time in between dates. And most of my single friends who are dating, I can almost guarantee you they feel the same way. Like You mean only one date like a month? The guys I know would be masturbating, 5 times a day if they only had one date in a month, right? So the reason I bring that up is because think about it. When you're dating, for some reason, you think one date a month is like way not enough. But all of a sudden now you're married or you're in a committed long-term relationship and you're like, oh, once a month is fine. What's changed is the question, right?
Your perspective and how you show up. And you got to find a fine line between comfort and novelty, because comfort is what brings you closer. And it's wonderful because it develops the intimacy and you have the trust and the bonding that happens in the relationship. But too much comfort also will kill the passion and the polarity or the excitement. You got to have something that's like that pulls you away, like that's a difference. And you can get that through either having, different things that you do and then you come back together, or through having novelty, because it brings in that element of newness. And for married couples, this is really what we are always challenged with, is finding that balance between the closeness that we experience and that we love so much, but still keeping up the passion. And I truly believe that date night is one way to still show up in a different way in your relationship and continue putting in some of that energy. Before we give you some of the keys, I want to quickly go over another study because it was quite fascinating. This one was done by the National Marriage Project, and it found that wives who spent a couple times, with their husbands, they call couple times date night. Okay, so that's their term. So wives who spend couple times with their husbands at least once a week are 3.5 times more likely to enjoy above average levels of sexual satisfaction compared to wives who have couple times less than once a week. So that particular study did find that the once a week is the sweet spot. Likewise, let's talk about the husbands here. Husbands who spend more couple time with their wives are 3.3 times more likely to enjoy above average levels of sexual satisfactions compared to their peers who have couple times less than once a week.
Okay, so if you want to be sexually satisfied, let me put it this way. If you want to triple your chances of being sexually satisfied in your relationship, triple your chance, not like 10% better, not even 100%, triple your chances of being sexually satisfied in your relationship. You have a once a week date night.
Oh yeah. So let's get to some of the keys here, because we got to get into the nitty gritty to make sure that you've got the gist of it, and so that you can go the distance, because it's easy to have a date night in the beginning. It's easy when you have the hormones and that honeymoon phase where everything is like beautiful and you're so in love. But once you start to be in life together and let stressors get in the way, it's much harder. But if you have a good foundation in place, you can withstand anything that life throws at you. Anything.
Yes. Okay. So we have the 8 keys to a successful date night. The first one we're going to skip over real fast because we've already talked about it. It is make sure you have one.
Whether it's a date night, date afternoon, date lunch, I don't care when, midnight snack, whatever that is.
You have to make sure that you have a date night. I mean, that.
Well, technically, if it's not in the calendar, it's not real. I mean, look at how you live your life. Anything that matters, you put it down into your calendar, whether it's picking up your kids from soccer, getting your hairdresser thing, or meeting with this client there, or whatever that is, it's in the calendar.
There's some people going, I don't have a calendar. Well, if you don't, you should, because life is way too busy to remember everything without the calendar.
I don't think in this day and age people don't have a calendar anymore.
I wouldn't be surprised. There's a few of you out there. I know it. You're winging it by the seat of your pants. You're writing down like little lists on pieces of paper that you lose and then can't find. Yeah, I know there's a few of you out there like that.
Hey, I don't care if you have an old-fashioned paper calendar and you're not doing the online thing. It's fine too. But it was such a pain in the ass the day I switched from I was a die-hard paper calendar, diary for the longest time. And a few years back, I was like, I really, really have to shift things over. And so I went online and I did screw it up. And I did have two clients showed up at the same time at my door, and it was very embarrassing. It's the only time that I ever screwed up clients' appointments, and but I made it work in the end. Everybody got happy, and it was embarrassing. But
I thought it was the greatest thing ever when I finally got on like an actual calendaring, like on my phone and computer thing. My family thought it was great. I remembered birthdays and like all kinds of things I didn't remember before. So I highly recommend it.
All right. Number 2, plan the date night ahead of time. So this is a great concept because what I have found, and I'm going to talk from the women's perspective, is number 1, if I plan something, whether it's me or Kevin, because it's also good to take turns on who plans it. But if something is planned ahead of time, I can start to think about it and get turned on and excited and use my imagination to start getting some arousal going, some excitement going.
Something to look forward to.
Absolutely. Also, if something is planned, it makes it easier by the end of the day because our date night is in the evening. And sometimes if I work too hard or give my energy to other things, I kind of show up to date night a bit tired. And if I have to start thinking at that moment from that place of being depleted, what are we going to do? It definitely becomes much more difficult to master the energy. And yeah. So having planned ahead before makes it that even if I show up tired, it's okay because date night is also about being real. You don't have to be like always having full energy, always feeling perfect. You could be bloated that evening. You could be emotional. You could be bleeding. You could be anything in between, as long as you're like not throwing up. But you could be less than ideal. But this is what it means to be in a relationship. You show up independently of how you are.
Yeah. And I'll add for the men too. Here's another thing. If you plan the date ahead of time, it is a huge turn on for her. She wants to know that you're a man with a plan. She wants to know that she can put this into your hands and it will get done. Right. So anytime that you can plan it ahead of time. Now, here's the thing. We talk about this all the time too, but you don't have to stick 100% to the plan. It's not like because you planned it and you're the guy that everything has to go exactly your way, because that's honestly never going to happen. You're dealing with women here, right? I mean, you're dealing with females. Inevitably, she's going to go, no, I'm not in the mood for that tonight.
And by the way, if your plan is a movie and dinner or dinner and movie, whatever order, you've got to look at other things. And we'll talk about that later. This is not what we're talking about here.
It isn't. And I'll say this. That's still better than not having a date night. All right. So if that's the best you got, okay, great. We're going to give you better ideas later on. But the idea is plan it ahead of time, come up with something, and then be willing to change in the moment. Because even if that plan was great at 8 a.m. in the morning, by 6 p.m. in the evening, it may not work anymore and you have to shift.
Number 3, it does not have to be elaborate. And this is important because who has the time, energy, and sometimes maybe even money to have like over the top date nights every single week? I mean, if you are that person, great, and do it. But most people don't. And so I think people try to make it too hard. Like we very seldomly go out. I was like, do we ever even go out for date night?
You know, we've never really gone out much for date night because our date night usually involves being naked at some point. The last 2 years, we've hardly gone out at all.
Yes.
I wonder why that is.
Yes. Do the math. We're in 2022. Key number 4.
Wait, but I don't want to pass over that completely, though. Okay. I just want to make one more point with that, which is, you know, when you tell guys to plan it, they roll their eyes and they're like, oh my God, this is so much work. It's the first thing they do. They all say the same, this is so much work. Why do I have to do this? Well, do you want to triple your chances of having
back to that triple
a satisfying sex life? I mean, it's probably even more than triple, honestly. But the idea is, again, you have an outcome that you want to achieve. You got to take the steps to get there. You can't just say, well, this is what I want to manifest and I'm leaving it up to universe and it'll all just happen. No, you got to take steps.
Let's go with the flow.
You know, it's the, what is the saying that they say all the time? leave it up to God and tie up your camel or something like that. You know, like you get the idea. It's like, yes, you can set the intention for what you want, but you still have to take steps to make it happen.
Tie up the camel. Well, and also, by the way, planning could really just be like, I'm going to lit up 3 candles and play this music.
Yeah.
That's the planning in my book, you know, so it doesn't have to be like crazy stuff. It could be researching different games and things. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but okay, I'm getting too excited.
Number 4.
Communication. Communication is lubrication.
That's right.
We say that often.
So, you know, the key here is, right, these are supposed to be keys to a successful date night. The only way that you can have a successful date night is if you communicate. You both have to communicate with each other. So let's say you're the guy, you've planned out the entire date, you've got it on the calendar, date night comes up, and you're not in the mood for something you planned. She's not in the mood for something you planned, and nobody says anything. How do you think this date night's going to go, right? You have to communicate. So if she shows up and she's not feeling whatever, you know, plan or idea that you had, she needs to be, you know, I had a really hard day today and I'm really feeling depleted. And I thought that was a great idea when you originally mentioned it this morning, but I just can't do it today. Is it possible that we could shift? Can we do something else?
Or we've had it so many times where one of us is more tired and say like, hey, I really need to receive first. Like, you know, I'm stuck in my head. I'm still stressed out from work, or I have tension in this body part. Do you have energy to help me with that? And oftentimes one of us feels just a little better. And it's like, no biggie, I'll rub your shoulders or massage your feet or stroke you back, whatever you need. Like, and that's how we help each other. But again, it's through that communication piece. And communication is not, let me just be really clear, is not about going over all the things that are not working in your relationship.
It's not complaining.
It's not complaining. No.
It's not criticizing.
No, and it's not controlling or competing. The 4 C's to avoid. But communication is simply about sharing your desires and your wants, or sharing the things that you love about each other, and focusing on the positive, which totally changes the mood of a date night. So that's not when you go over the financial issues or the schedule with the kids or why your relationship is not working the way you want.
You just hit on a big one. This is what couples who have kids do. They finally get time alone and they sit down and they talk about the kids.
It's going to be hard at first, but honestly, put down your phone.
Do it.
Don't have any phones, and don't talk about your kids. Like, make a conscious effort to have a 2 hours break from the kids. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you're not a good parent. It means that in this moment, you are focusing on being lovers.
Yes, you are prioritizing that. Okay.
Speaking of which, moving to number 5.
Number 5. Be sure to set aside some time for sexy time.
The eros.
The eros. So you don't have to do this on every single date night. In fact, one of the things that we say all the time is that date night, there doesn't have to be an expectation of sex, because when you put that expectation of sex out there, it puts pressure. Now, for most guys, this isn't a problem. Like, for most guys, it's like, yeah, let's put it on the calendar. Sex. It's right there on the calendar. Sex. But for women, having that expectation, like, oh man, he's expecting me that I have to do this. What if I'm not feeling good? What if I'm bloated? What if I don't know, I didn't shave? Like, there's a million things in there that could potentially get in the way. And so one of the easiest ways to make women feel comfortable and safe about date night and the time spent together is to take that expectation off the table. However, having said that, to really connect deeply in your date night, and this doesn't mean you can't connect deeply by talking or, you know, caressing or doing other things, but sexual connection is an important part of any healthy relationship. It just is. You want science? There is a ton of science on this too. Go look it up yourself. There's all kinds of studies showing that people who connect sexually, and it doesn't even have to be a certain way, but they do better. It's an important part of a healthy relationship. So you should have some sort of time during your date night set aside for that. So for instance, let's say your date night is, I'm going to take you out to a great restaurant, right? Well, okay, maybe that's half of the date night. The other half should be, then we come home and we connect, we talk, we get naked, we massage each other, whatever it is. You should have some time set aside for sexy time. We'll give you a list of examples of things you can do with sexy time, but also know that sometimes one person or the other is just not going to be up for sexy time. And that's okay. It's part of the date night. It's on there. It's scheduled, but be ready to call an audible, pivot, and do something else if necessary. Now, as Céline, you mentioned earlier, if every date night there seems to be a new excuse for why sexy time can't happen, that means that there's a deeper issue, because the chances that somebody's going to have a stomach ache or a headache or a period or whatever every week, no, not really good. So that means there's a deeper underlying issue that needs to be addressed. You need to find out what that is. You do not need to dive into that on date night, but after date night, you need to set aside time to figure out what's going on there.
Well, then that's a good time to invite you to check out our program. If that's you and you're struggling and you feel like you're in a rut, you don't have the sex that you used to, and somebody's always coming up with excuses on date nights to not do the things that you know you should be doing for having a healthy relationship, then Kevin and I would love to invite you to work with us. We basically ask that you give us 90 days and we will help you bring the passion back between the sheets and feel more synced up, have more passion, and become the sexual power couple that you are. So to learn more about our program, go to CelineRemy.com/passion. I can do that. CelineRemy.com/passion and join our Highly Sex Power Couple Platinum program.
So as you know, if you listen to this show, Céline works with couples and men and women, and I also work with men, and the two of us together work with couples. And it is a fantastic program because you're going to get the insight from both of us. You're going to get how we do things. You're going to get, I mean, it's so hard to really quantify how valuable it is to have a man and woman who are themselves in an intimate relationship, coaching you on how to have the best intimate relationship you can have. And there just aren't very many people out there that actually do that. So it's a fantastic program. And you know, honestly, I think anybody who's struggling in their relationship should be going through that program.
All right, let's go back to our keys. We have three more keys, actually. Yes. Key number 6 is about commitment and connection. What we mean by commitment and connection. Your relationship is like a plant. It can't just be forgotten. It needs to have watering, some little fertilizer, some loving attention so that it can thrive. And that's what the commitment part is. It's about showing up for each other. When you decided to commit to each other, you made vows, you exchanged vows. And that was all about like, hey, I'm going to do my best to show up and give you the best of me. And date night is a rededication to these vows, to these intentions that you've set out for your relationship. And in terms of connection, that commitment leads to connection too, because again, it's prioritizing the connection over anything else in the world and in your life, because it's so easy to get sidetracked in the stressors of life, in problems and all of these things that pull us apart. But focusing on what brings us closer, what makes us come together and connect, that's really what matters.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's about focusing on your relationship and not the outside world, but it's also focusing on making sure that during the date night, what's happening is you're focusing on the commitment and the connection. In other words, you're not focusing on how long did we have sex? What kind of sex did we have? What, you know, the way you figure out, was it a successful date night is, did you commit to it? And were you able to successfully connect with each other during that date night? So that's why we say focus on that and not so much the other little details.
Key number 7, it's all about de-stressing. And what's amazing is that oftentimes we feel too stressed to have sex or to show up for date night, but really what we need is a good old orgasms or good shagging to let go of the stress.
Yeah, baby.
And
do I make you horny? Do I?
As a matter of fact, you do. I think we should wrap up this show pretty quickly, but we have not yet given them all of our little ideas. Okay, key number 8. So we finish with that, and then we get to our ideas. Is all about fun and novelty. And, people are making things too complicated. Like, novelty is not just about like, hey, let's have a threesome, a foursome, a fivesome, or orgy, or whatever that is. That's a form of novelty, but that's not what we're talking about. Or like this sex story, that sex story, all of this. All of these things are outside elements that you depend on to feel good about your relationship. And if that's what it is, then you are going to run out of these items at some point in your life. And therefore, you need to be able to bring that novelty, that fun energy from the inside out, not from the outside in. And fun is about, are you somebody who's fun? Are you still laughing together? Are you tickling each other? Are you like joking together? Like all of these things. Novelty could just be like, I've never licked your anus. That's really novel. Let's try that. Novelty could be, wow. Oh, let's do it on the other side of the bed. I mean, it's really not that crazy or
and so the point is, I say this quote from time to time on the show, but I like to quote Larry Flint because it's just it's a fantastic quote, which is just relax. It's just sex. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is you should have fun on date night. Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Relax. It's just date night, right? Like, have fun with it. Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself or on your partner either.
All right. So we are now getting into some of the sexy time ideas and some fun ideas. Just to help you feel inspired. We hope that by now you are convinced that date night is essential. If you are listening to this show as it is being released, it's still the early months of the new year. So you still have probably another 47 weeks to commit to date night. So do it. Get your calendars, sync it, and just do that. But here are some really cool ideas.
We just kind of wrote down a list of some of the things that we like to do. Yeah, basically, it's a list of stuff we do, and it's 2 lists. One is sexy time ideas, so like things that you can do that are kind of fun and sexy, and the second one is a list of just fun ideas, ways to make it more fun. So.
Number 1, create a dedicated space. It can be in your bedroom. We have somebody came to our house and like, is this a tantra bed? And we're like, yes, it is.
Why, as a matter of fact, well, we've got multiple spaces around the house that we use for this purpose, but there's spaces that are specifically designed for us to be comfortable, to be warm. We can be naked. We can make all the noise we want. We've got access to lighting and sound and things that, fireplace, stuff to make it a really comfy, cozy, sexy place to be.
Yeah, we have this really nice Thai mattress in front of the fireplace, and it's in our bedroom because then it shifts things around. We're not just in bed, but it's really lovely.
But make do with whatever space you have. If you don't have a lot of space, then turn your bedroom into the space.
Or it could be something special, like a particular thing you put over your bed that maybe it's a Venus pad for your ejaculation. Right. Like different things like that. But like something that makes you feel sexy, or when you see this when you see this red pillow, it means sexy time's coming. Like it's kind of think about the Pavlov dog experiment, right?
Cowboy hats on the door.
Hey, there you go. Whatever that is, right? Okay, move on to number 2.
If it's cold, make it warm. Look, you're not going to have sexy time if she's cold. You're just not. It's not going to happen. Make it warm in whatever way you can. We have a mutual friend that we've known for years. One of the first things he taught me many, many years ago is if you want a woman to take her clothes off, you better make it warm.
Well, and we all know what happens to a dick when it's freezing cold.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. If you want to look your best, men, your biggest and best, then yeah, don't be too cold.
Number 3, lower the lighting. I mean, these are kind of like super easy. I mean, come on, you should know these things, right? I feel like we don't need to spend too much time on that, but
it's creating the atmosphere that makes it sensual, seductive.
So then we
enticing.
add number 4 with the music. I find music to be so good because it helps to get out of your head, to create the mood. And whether you're like, hey, in a pounding mood today and you want to have something with a beat, or you want something relaxing or something that's like uplifting, like what is it that you want to create? And you can really bring that mood through the music that you play.
Mm-hmm. Number 5, wear something sexy. You can have so much fun with this. We did an underwear of the month year, like 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, maybe even 3 at this point.
Yeah, it was a couple of years back where every month Céline would buy some new sexy lingerie and debut it at some random point in time. And then of course we would use those things on our date nights throughout the month. And it was so much fun. She had a ton of fun surprising me. She didn't have to spend a ton of money on it. You get creative and find interesting things on the internet these days, and it was just super fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm still smiling, remembering. Some were better than others too, but it was fun. You can get some things with holes, some things with pom-poms, some things with interesting shape, and yeah, absolutely fun.
Some things with sex toys built in.
Exactly. All right, number 6, get naked. Remember, that is one of the rules. I mean, you've got to touch each other. Again, it doesn't have to lead to penetration, but get naked.
We've talked about our 2 date night rules all the time. We have to do something together where we're focused on each other, and at some point during the date night, we should be naked. I know it sounds ridiculous, but a lot of people think, well, we need to get turned on first. We need to agree that there's going to be sex first, and then we get naked.
And it has to be spontaneous, because otherwise it's not going to be fun.
Yeah. We need to agree on it first, and then it has to be spontaneous. Yeah, these are the kinds of silly things that people tell us. And so the idea is just get naked. Just naked.
Do it.
Just do it, because it most likely will lead to sexy time.
And get the massage oil. That's our tip number 7.
Mm-hmm. Get out the massage oil.
Because, everything's better when it's lubricated. And you can do so many things with a massage oil. You don't have to just use your hands to massage each other. You could use your genitals. You could use your feet. You could use your whole body. I mean, slide up and down. It's so much fun with massage oil. And number 8 is to role play. We've done an entire show on role play just a few weeks back, so you can go back to that one to listen to more of the different ideas. One of my favorites is number 9, where we start to play with different things, like 10 minutes of anything, where you set up a timer and the person gets to ask for 10 minutes of anything that they want to receive. And the other person gets to give them that. And then you reverse. And that forces you to get in touch with what is it that you really want and need. And then it also allows you to relax, that you're giving your partner exactly what they want and you're making them happy. And for a lot of men, that's a very satisfying place to be in, knowing that they're doing the right thing for their women.
Yeah, that's such a fun game. It really is. That, that's one that we'll often pull out when we're really tired and both of us are like, man, what are we going to do here? We'll say, how about 10 minutes of anything? It really is a great little one that you can pull out, and it helps spark the date night into action. Okay.
We'll just do these quickly, like using sex toys. Always fun. And by the way, sex toys don't just have to be for her. They can be for him and for them as a couple that you can use together. So, it could also be a date night activity to go on a erotic website of some kind and purchase something for the next time that you meet. Like something like that can be really fun. Take a shower together, read an erotica novel. I mean, so many of these like little things that can be fun.
And I want to just slightly emphasize take a shower together, because it's actually a really fun thing that you can do together, and where you actually like wash each other. You're not just standing in the shower together. It's like you soap me, I soap you. It's a really fun way, and it's a great way to start a sexy time date night, because then you're all fresh out of the shower. Now you're a little turned on because you've been touching each other. Like, it's a really great way to get things moving.
Some of the ideas are, most of our ideas, we always stay home because we have like 2 or 3 hours. And I feel like if we have to go out, we kind of lose most of the time that we have allocated for a date night. Yeah, so I would rather
3 hours just for the sex.
See, there you go. I'd rather do each other than go do dinner. But you can cook the dinner together, which is really fun, to spend time chopping veggies or being together in the kitchen.
Yeah. So now we're into our list of fun ideas.
Okay.
So we've left sexy ideas, although kitchen could turn into something sexy, but we're into the fun ideas. Like, what are things that you can do together that bring you into that connection state that we've been talking about? Cooking dinner together is a really fun one, because you can do it slowly. You can share the different things.
You can feed each other ingredients as you're prepping them.
Ingredients.
Or maybe the rule is that you can't feed yourself your dinner and you have to feed each other.
Do you know how many vegetables look like genitalia? A lot of them do. You can have a lot of fun with that.
You can also play a sexy game, and there are a lot of options. So a couple of things that we recommend. Number one, we really like Michael Webb's stuff, and we are affiliates with his products. And so we're going to put the links in the descriptions for 2 of his products. Number one is called the Sex Stories Around the House. So it's like using all stuff that you already have at home that can be turned into sex stories. And this is really fun. And the second one he has is 300 Creative Dates ideas. And so these are great places to start, because sometimes you are in a rut. Sometimes you don't know what to think. And these can help you get started and be like, oh, I kind of like this one, but we could modify it a little bit. Or that's a great idea. We'll use it as is. And we like his stuff. So if you use our link, we'll make a little commission and you'll support the show and we'll be grateful. So make sure to check out these. And they're super affordable. They're like less than $50. So it's less than a dinner for a year worth of ideas. That's
right. And the links will, of course, be in the description. And also, if you just go to CelineRemy.com and go to our shop, all of our products, our affiliate things are there. It's a great way to help support the work that we do.
And you can also just enter the keywords like intimacy card or sexy games. There are so many, and we haven't tried them all, and you got to find what works for you. Some are more like BDSM oriented, some are more romantic, some are more sexual. Like, find different things. Some will work better than others. Now, that's one way. The other way is to make up your own game, which is my favorite.
This is one that we do all the time. We totally make up our own little games that we play. What was the one we did where it was something physical, but we
couldn't speak, or it was one word, and then you had to do it.
Oh, that's right. So you had to give a one-word command, and then the other person had to interpret what was meant by that.
Exactly.
And then figure out. So like if you said
bite.
Yeah. Well, like, to be really obvious, if you said suck, you might be thinking in your head, oh, great, now she's going to give me a blowjob, right? But she may interpret that completely different and end up like sucking on your earlobe, right? Mm-hmm. And so you never really know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, that one was really fun. We totally made that one up. We have another one, and that's another fun idea here. If I could have it all my way, where you just really describe everything you would want without censoring yourself. Then, only then, afterwards, you can start to negotiate and see how you might want to do it, if at all. But at least just the practice of voicing what you wanted without censoring yourself, and your partner receiving it, say, thank you so much for sharing, is huge.
Yeah, and don't hold back with the if you could have it all your way. Like even if things are completely ridiculous, where you're like, well, if I had it all my way, I would fly you in my private helicopter to my yacht, and we would, like you can.
Well, because then it becomes also role playing, because
Yeah.
you may not yet have the financial means or things to be able to do that. But just the idea that you're saying that and you would want to do that is a massive turn on for a woman.
Yeah, and you might find ways that you can simulate some of that
Ooh.
as well. So that if I could have it all my way is always fun. We haven't done that one in a while on a date night. We should do that.
That's true. Well, date night's coming for us soon.
Yes, it is.
Number 5, share a hot tub or a bath. We talked about the shower, but the bath is really nice. What we like, we have a big tub and it's awesome because you can massage each other's feet and you can talk about your relationships, things that you love and appreciate about each other. Or you can just sit in between one person in between the other person's leg and just kind of like have that closeness and be in the warmth of the bath. It's really lovely.
Yeah. And just, if you hadn't thought about this, to do that, you have to get naked. So, it's setting you in the right direction that you want to go.
We have a couple more here that we like to do. We like to play music and sing together. It's about creativity. So whether you are musicians and that's something that you would want to do, or whether you are artists, you could make a project, an art project, whatever that is, it's about using that creative energy, which is the same as your sexual energy, and generating that together. And then, you'll just have that to use on each other as well.
Yeah, like maybe you could do a project where you sculpt each other's genitals.
That's fun.
With clay or something, that is fun.
And then last but not least is to dress up or down for each other. And, dressing up is a lot of people, especially with the years where there were lockdowns and quarantines. And, we realized that we didn't go out that much. And there are some like your nice outfit that you basically never wear. But do you really have to wait until you go out for that? Or could you dress up for your partner?
Yeah. There's that great cartoon. We've talked about it a few times in the past, right? Where it's like, oh, we're going to go out and see total,
strangers we don't want to have sex with. And it's like super revealing, sexy outfit.
Right. And then this is how I dress for the person I love at home. And you're like in your sweatpants. Like, wait, what? No, you want to look your best for the person that you love, right? So there's nothing wrong with dressing up and not actually leaving the house. That's perfectly acceptable. And then you will eventually undress.
See, just like this, these are like 7 different ideas and they are easy ways. They are ways that do not cost money, that do not require you to drive and go other places. So a lot of excuses can get out. And by the way, if you have children and it might be easier to get away because it makes it challenging to be in the same home. So maybe that once a month to have a hotel room or getaway. We know people who have their getaway trailer, where it's like when mom and dad are in the trailer.
Room, Airbnb,
just exactly. Make it work and make it matter.
Yeah. Someplace where you've got privacy and you can make all the noise you want.
And warm. And be warm.
And be warm. That's
very important.
All right, everybody. Wow, that was a somewhat long episode, but we hope that you got a lot of value at it. And I challenge all of you now that you've listened to this to go out and create amazing date nights every single week. I guarantee you will see improvements in your relationship. All right, everybody, that's all the time we have for this episode, and we will see you next week. We hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoy this show, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends.
And for more free, exclusive content, join us in the Passion Vault at CelineRemy.com/vault. That's CelineRemy.com/vault.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you're amazing.